Good evening and welcome to the Week in Review. I'm Phil Ponce, sitting in for Brandis Friedman in our Northwest Side studios.
And I'm Paris Schutz in my West Lakeview living room. Because of the coronavirus, we've had to make some changes, so I will be broadcasting from home, and our Week in Review guests will be coming to us via video conferencing technology from all over the region, and we'll be back with our full Week in Review program in just a bit. But first, Phil, back to you with the latest developments from today.
Thanks, Paris. Governor J.B. Pritzker says the state has surpassed its goal of 10,000 daily COVID-19 tests. Pritzker says the state conducted more than 16,000 tests across its 112 public testing sites yesterday. With that announcement came a single-day high in new cases in Illinois, with more than 2,700. State health officials say this isn't a surprise, though, because of the increase in the number of tests conducted. That brings Illinois' total cases to nearly 40,000. Health officials also reported 108 additional COVID deaths, bringing the statewide total to 1,795. City Council narrowly approves a measure that gives Mayor Lori Lightfoot emergency spending powers that do not require aldermanic approval. Lightfoot has called for the measure to help get funds for more personal protective equipment.
What the 29 voted for was to make sure that we continue doing everything we can to keep our residents safe in this time of pandemic, and to continue to have a sense of urgency around the measures that are needed to do just that.
The 29-21 vote comes after a contentious meeting Wednesday, during which 35th Ward Alderman Carlos Ramirez Rosa led a two-day delay on the measure. He cited a lack of oversight and assurance that the money will be spent equitably. Also today, aldermen vote to pull horse-drawn carriages off city streets. The ban is set to take effect January 1st, 2021, and it ends a years-long debate between carriage operators and animal rights activists. More on this story and the mayor's new spending powers on our website. Parking lots at popular Cook County Forest Preserves will be closed on weekends through May. Cook County Forest Preserve Superintendent Arnold Randall says the move comes after an influx of visitors in recent weeks, some of whom were ignoring social distancing rules.
We still want people to be able to use the preserves, but just on the weekends, finding other locations that are less crowded, that bring less people. We're just closing the parking lots, so we expect they're still open. But we don't want to have, we're trying to reduce the number of people there and reduce the opportunity for the virus to spread.
Randall says some visitors have been holding cookouts, meeting in groups, and using closed restrooms and picnic tables. Forest Preserve police have been instructed to issue citations and fines up to $500 to people, quote, willfully disregarding social distancing guidelines. For a list of the sites with parking closures, please visit our website. And I'll be back in a bit to fill you in on what we have in store for you next week on Chicago Tonight. But now to the Week in Review. Paris.
Thank you, Phil. And as I mentioned, I'm broadcasting from home. My guests are coming to us via video conferencing technology, and they are Mike Flannery of Fox 32 News, Taman Bradley of WGN TV News, Mariano Gielis of Univision, and I'm very excited to say our very own Heather Sharon of WTTW News. So let's jump right in it. You heard the news, 2,700 plus new COVID cases today. It's another one-day high. Tragically, 108 new deaths, although that number appears to be flattening. Mike Flannery, we've seen different projections. Does this indicate that Illinois is at or near its peak?
Well, I'll trust what the governor, who's been really quoting scientists and medical experts, says. It looks like sometime next month, by the middle of next month, we'll hit our peak here. Let's keep our fingers crossed. He has, I think, reasonably suggested a few changes. People are going to be able to go fishing, just 2 to a boat. People are going to be able to go shopping at other stores that have been closed. But I think it's good news.
Mike, I'll meet you in a boat on Wolf Lake, perhaps. Taman Bradley, 16,000 tests conducted today. How has the state been able to finally ramp up that testing number?
So that was crucial, right? The governor said that he wanted to hit 10,000 tests per day, and that's going to make a big difference. potentially. Remember that there are these testing sites set up where people can drive through. All you have to do is roll down your window, you take the swab, you put it in your nose, you hand it back, and they get the data. That is crucial to moving forward. There's been a lot of tension about reopening things, as Mike pointed out. Also, some type of elective surgeries will be allowed at hospitals. They wanted that because they were losing a lot of money. And of course, there are people who want to have certain medical procedures done. So you have a lot of tension about getting things going. You have State Senator Dan McCunchy, who filed a bill that would require that the General Assembly sign off on Governor Pritzker extending the stay-at-home order going forward. The only problem, though, Paris, is the General Assembly is not scheduled to meet. We don't know when they'll meet.
It's surprising that they haven't been able to get the Zoom meeting up and running like City Council has. Mariano Hielis, you know, we mentioned the stay-at-home order is extended to May 30th with some modifications. Why were there carve-outs for golf courses and plant nurseries in there?
Well, the idea that you can go and play golf without having any problem, it's prevalent among people in the most wealthy areas of Chicago and in the suburbs. But the truth is that in the city, among people that are not having a great time at this point, those are things that are pretty relevant. In the Latino community, for example, the main issue right now is the way we are undercounting the cases. For example, here in the city of Chicago, we just discovered that the cases have doubled, the confirmed cases have doubled in the last 2 weeks. Only 13.9% of the total cases were Latino in April the 5th. And as of today, the cases have risen to 28.5%. So I think we have more urgent things to think about than opening the economy or opening golf courses.
You know, Mariano, I was in Brighton Park yesterday. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Well, I was going to throw one more thing out there that is happening kind of in the background, and I'm not sure how to deal with it, but the census is in a state of suspended animation right now. And that has a huge impact, particularly here in the Midwest, our neighboring state of Wisconsin, where Democrats got 53% of the vote last time, and Republicans nonetheless controlled the General Assembly with supermajorities, I think. You know, and then here in Illinois, we have the prospect of a remap too, which is lopsidedly Democratic. You know, what happens with that census has huge impact. And when are we going to get that done?
Well, it does seem like Illinois is performing relative to other states not so bad on the response to the census. Heather Sharon, you know, you start to see some protests across the country to reopen states. Are residents in Illinois likely to get antsy with this new May 30th deadline, you know, wanting Governor Pritzker to perhaps reconsider that?
Well, certainly people are eager to resume some form of normal life, but the polling that we've seen has been relatively consistent that as many as 60% of Illinoisans are happy to do their part to stay at home. And I think that that is probably due in part to Governor Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot's consistent harping on this message of that they need to stay at home and they need to stay safe. But I think that it's a good point that we are still in the thick of this, and that if Illinois were to reopen a significant number of new businesses, that we could see a real surge of cases. And something that I'm watching very closely is whether the cases have spread to rural Illinois. And I think that that will pose a huge problem for those hospitals and health systems, which have been relatively unscathed up to this point. And I think that that could potentially be an issue for some of these state lawmakers who are pushing Governor Pritzker, especially from the Republican Party, to maybe move faster than he thinks is warranted. So that is a potential political calculation as well.
Mariano, I want to go back to what you said about the Hispanic Latino community. I was in Brighton Park yesterday, majority Hispanic, and I was at a health center where the CEO there said that they had tested nearly 500 positive cases, which is more than showed up in the zip code in the official count. So why is the undercounting happening?
Well, I'll give you the best explanation that the Cook County ME gave us, the biggest problem, for example, with deaths that are undercounted too, just to give you an example, on April the 5th, the Latino deaths were less than 2%, and right now are about 20%. The biggest problem there was the fact that the ME doesn't discriminate by ethnicity. It discriminates by race.
The medical examiner, you're saying. Exactly.
So to confirm that someone is Latino, they have a process that takes about 2 weeks when the family confirms that a deceased person is of the Latino community. That's the only time when the medical examiner clarifies that a person deceased is Latino. So we have to wait about 2 weeks to confirm real numbers, which puts us in a very disadvantaged situation.
Taman Bradley, another number that was undercounted, but now we're getting a more accurate picture, is senior citizens living in nursing homes, and there's been a particular outbreak in the Symphony nursing home, the one in Joliet and the one in South Shore in Chicago. Why the outbreaks at these places?
Well, and also keep in mind, Paris, that we only got the official data from the state about which were the problem nursing homes last weekend. The governor's scrambling to get that information out. Look, obviously, our most vulnerable citizens are at nursing homes, and it's going to spread quickly. No, a nursing home is not a situation where you can have social distancing. They're going to be the caretakers there. They're going to come and leave every day. You're going to have potentially families under certain circumstances that are allowed in, but usually they're not allowed in, with the nursing home being off limits to only the crucial workers who are there. And then it's a real challenge because people who live there are there because they have very serious medical conditions, and so you can't move them. So if COVID-19 strikes, it's going to spread rapidly in a nursing home. It's a real concern.
You know, Taman,
certainly a concern, as are the jails. Go ahead, Mike.
Paris, if I just throw one thing in, speaking of the nursing homes, there was a state representative, Republican from far southern Illinois, Representative Darren Bailey, today filed a lawsuit demanding that, claiming that Governor Pritzker doesn't have the power. It expired on April 9th to issue the stay-at-home order. Ironically, his district includes Jasper County, which is second only to Cook County in the state of Illinois for the rate of infection, and it's centered in a nursing home there, and it exemplifies how there are going to be hotspots that are going to crop up far outside the Chicago area.
All right, let's move on to some other political news this week. City Council approves Mayor's emergency power ordinance after pushback during the historic first virtual City Council meeting. City Council approves David Brown as Chicago's 63rd police superintendent, but his first move as top cop angers some aldermen. The Pride Parade is postponed along with other summer events, and Governor Pritzker rejects Senate Leader Mitch McConnell's state bankruptcy idea. Heather Sharon, you watched this City Council meeting happen on Zoom today. Why did Mayor Lightfoot feel adamant that she needed this unilateral authority to spend the city's money or move money around in response to the pandemic?
Well, I think part of it is because the competition for personal protective gear has really become sort of the wild, wild west, and that cities and states have found themselves in a position that if they don't move immediately, they can lose out on this gear. And the mayor says that she needs this authority, which gives her the ability to enter into contracts up to $1 million to make that happen. Now, her critics say that she doesn't need this authority, that the city council can meet within 48 hours to approve these sort of contracts, and that it risks tipping the balance between the mayor and the city council, and it led to some very heated exchanges both on Wednesday and today.
And a lot of the concern, Mariano, and especially in Black and Hispanic communities, is that they won't get the proportionate share of some of the funding, even though they have been hit the hardest. Are those legitimate concerns?
Totally. I mean, as of today, they haven't gotten, I would like to say anything, but I would compromise to almost anything. The Latino community, for example, didn't get anything from the federal government because we have a big chunk of our community that is the immigrant community, and a lot of them are undocumented. So they didn't get anything from the federal government, and they were expecting to get something from the state government and the local government. In the case of the state of Illinois, there are a couple of programs, but the money is not there yet or hasn't gone to the people that need it. In the case of the city of Chicago, and you were talking about these special powers for the mayor wants us to trust her with all these decisions, to take it unilaterally. But for example, in the case of this program of these subsidies given by the Department of Housing, we know that they gave $2 million. They gave $1,000 subsidy to 1,000 people, and they were supposed to give the other $1 million to activists in the community. But the city hasn't given us any information about what type of organization got the money and how much money they've gotten, which is a situation that shows us some lack of transparency. So in that, given that situation, to try to trust the mayor with this idea that she can take all these decisions by herself, it's really tenuous. It's really difficult to put together.
I hope that FOIA is going to be in full force so journalists can find out how exactly this money is being spent.
We FOIA for it, for sure.
Well, that's not the case there, Paris. Can I just add that what we saw this week, just remarkable that personal relationships matter. When you look at Raymond Lopez and Carlos Ramirez Rosa, it was clear, obviously, that once this made it out of committee, that there were the votes for her expanded powers to pass. She made concessions. It expires June 30th. The contracts are only up to $1 million. But so much of what happens at council when we have these skirmishes is based on the mayor's personal relationships with these aldermen. They feel like they're being disrespected. They feel like she's condescending. We saw leaked audio recordings from meetings that she had, virtual meetings that she had with them, where she seemed to sort of be answering the questions and sort of talking down to the aldermen. And some people just can't get past their very first meeting with her when she was mayor-elect. They just didn't feel respected. And so that it's unfortunate that even in a time of crisis, we see the personal politics playing out.
And let me tell you that Rosa and Lopez usually don't see eye to eye.
No,
right.
They hate each other. Straight.
They're not ideologically aligned, but they agree on not getting along with the mayor so well. You know, Heather, it was a 29-21 vote. Not a landslide, as we've been used to for the last forever. Does that signal that, you know, once we're past this pandemic, that there could be trouble on the horizon for the mayor's agenda?
Oh, there absolutely could be. And I think that it calls into question as to whether we're finally seeing some sort of aldermanic revolt is probably a too strong term at this point, but at least sort of a coalescing of opposition. You know, I've covered the city council now for almost 4 years, and I've never seen a vote get more than 20 no votes. So that might not seem like a lot to the layperson, but in terms of Chicago City Council history, the nearest comparison is really the council wars with Harold Washington and Ed Burke and, you know, Pat O'Connor and all of that. And if that happens, I think that Mayor Lightfoot runs the risk of having to sort of scale back what she's trying to do, because let's not forget, before the pandemic hit, she had a very aggressive sort of platform and a list of proposals that I have no doubt that she hopes to one day get back to. But if she has sort of soured these relationships, and it's important to note that it's not just Ramirez Rosa, it's not just Raymond Lopez, it's also the Black Caucus. And there were many, many members of the Black Caucus that voted against this measure today. And you heard
Heather, I'll defer to you on this count, but I mean, we've seen Governor Pritzker talk about a potentially $7 billion plus shortfall. We have seen Tony Preckwinkle start to talk about the county shortfall.
200 million.
All we get from the mayor is happy talk and the claim that she somehow foresaw that a recession was coming. I mean, it's ludicrous even to say that in the face of what we now face. But there are hard votes for the aldermen coming because there are going to be gaping holes in that city budget. For her to just plug those holes, much less do something new, is going to require, I think it's going to make inevitable, given the pension problems, tax increases.
Well, and that property
speaking of that,
taxes are the easiest way for raise revenue, and that's really a difficult vote for aldermen who have to run for re-election in not too the distant future to have to take, especially if they feel like they're not being listened to or they're not being consulted. That makes a difficult situation even worse.
Speaking of property taxes and pension problems, State Senate President Don Harmon penned a letter to federal representatives saying, how about a $41 billion pension bailout for Illinois? Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says maybe states should go bankrupt. Is there going to be federal relief for Illinois and its massive budget deficit?
I think there is going to be some. I think the Senate and the Congress, I think there's going to be something. And I think if we get a Democratic president next year, if it is Joe Biden, and perhaps a change at the congressional level and some more leverage for the blue states, there might be something coming. In the short run, though, double goose eggs.
Exactly. Yeah, the Democrats lost the opportunity with the last stimulus package. I mean, in those $500 billion, the fact that they couldn't get anything from the states and the local governments is ludicrous. And I was talking to Jesus Garcia, the congressman for the 4th District. He was telling me that he was hoping that the president would help them to convince the Republican legislators to vote for another stimulus package to help local governments. I don't see it happening in the short term.
It did seem to have some bipartisan approval, but who knows how much. Taman Bradley, another piece of controversy this week. The new police superintendent, David Brown, flooded the zone, and this has been done, this is done all the time, where police officers from certain districts are taken to high crime districts to flood that area. Why did this get so much pushback from aldermen?
I think it's because it was done on such short notice. Usually the district commanders are notified of the strategy, but it's clear that David Brown wants to make a splash targeting Harrison and Gresham, which of course have been problem areas so far this year. When he was approved, after he was approved by city council, he talked about a moonshot and a city that leads the country in terms of its homicide rate and getting guns off the streets and keeping Chicago very safe. And so he wanted to make a splash. And I would expect that we'll see more of this in the weeks to come as this new superintendent really tries to put his stamp on the department and really get things going. But you had Alderman Napolitano just furious that police officers were pulled from the northwest side saying, look, people are at home, we still need to police all of the city. And so it's a surge strategy, and I think it's going to play out here, and we'll see if it makes a difference.
Yeah, don't forget,
we'll have to keep watching that.
Neighbors. Yeah, you also have the neighbors in the west and the south side that are pretty mad about the over-policing, the fact that the city of Chicago is still using the same strategies that never worked in the past. So I was wondering, I mean, where do we have an example that these search strategies work to keep on applying them in our neighbors?
Well, we'll see how long the new the honeymoon lasts for the new superintendent. There's a new round of business funding and a new stimulus. Are we confident that this is going to get into the hands of people that need it and not co-opted by big chains like Ruth's Chris Steakhouse?
And Potbelly Sandwich. I mean, some of that is, it shows why you need transparency and why oversight is important. The point was made earlier about the city's grants. So, we need to see some transparency there as well. No, it's ludicrous and scandalous, some of the people who've gotten this federal bailout money, while, some people who run some great restaurants near me here along Western Avenue in Beverly and nearby, their banks can't get in front of the line the way the big guys do.
And this is life and death for a lot of small business owners. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was going to say that this bill has $60 billion to credit unions, for example, and small banks, small neighborhood banks, but it's just $60 billion, even though it sounds like a large number. I mean, I know the community organizations were asking for about $150 billion to help those businesses that manage their business with cash, not with bank accounts.
I think there is some good news, just to point out real quick, that under the revised stay-at-home, order. Certain types of businesses will be able to take online orders, and then people can just go and pick up. They can have deliveries. That was really, really important to so many small businesses who just need to get back going.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. We're out of time. You've been a terrific panel. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Enjoy parts 3 and 4 of the Bulls documentary if you're watching that like I am. And my thanks to Mike Flannery, Taman Bradley, Mariano Hielis, and Heather Sharon, all joining us virtually this Friday night from across the area during this time of social distancing. I'm Paris Schutz. I'll see you again Monday night at 7, and now we toss it back to you, Phil.
Thanks, Paris. And that is our show for this Friday night. Don't forget, you can get Chicago Tonight and the Week in Review streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, wttw.com/news. And join us next week. We'll talk with Dr. Emily Landon, who gained national attention after her emotional plea to practice social distancing and other safety measures. And one-on-one with Mayor Lightfoot about her new city educational initiative for kids and much more. Now, for Paris Schutz and all of us here at Chicago Tonight, the Week in Review, I'm Phil Ponce. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe. Good night.
Closed captioning for this program is brought to you by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, serving Chicago as a personal injury law firm since 1984.